The plan misses the forest for the trees. You remember what they said in cross-examination. They claimed to solve for the broader structures of mutually assured destruction between India and Pakistan. But the IAWDS system is a symptom of that and is not the true cause of deteriorating tensions. The first off-case position is a topicality violation. The resolution calls for a substantial reduction in arms sales. Our interpretation of substantial is at least an 8 times reduction in overall sales. Tiahri, a specialist in national security policy, writes in 2016. The value of all arms transfer agreements was $65 billion, a substantial decrease from the $79 billion. The value of all arms deliveries, $33 billion, decreased slightly from $36 billion. Having a limited topic allows the negatives to be prepared and well-researched. Therefore, vote negative on topicality for limits and ground. The US sells arms to 180 countries and almost 100 weapon systems. Since this topic has no common disadvantage or counterplan to every single country, the only way the negative can prepare is deep research per country. At the end of the year, with the highest stakes, voting on T is the best way to send this topic out on top. And independently, the affirmative should not be able to reduce specific makes of weapon systems in the plan text. Instead, they should read affirmatives that govern more broad categories like BMD technology in general. Otherwise, it explodes limits by opening the topic to every specific make and model of every category of weapons we sell, make it impossible to be negative. They also take away our disadvantage ground, because when we sell multiple types of a category of weapons, they can just argue that still selling the rest of that category offsets any effect of the plan. Next off is the ISR counterplan. The United States federal government should privately threaten to cut off India from its intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance ISR support in platforms via Comcasa in the event of a conflict or escalating crisis with Pakistan. Only the counterplan solves the root cause of Indian aggression, because India can only confidently fight wars when they have intelligence from the United States, and the counterplan avoids the China appeasement disadvantage. Pranav Samada writes for the Economic Times on September 2018. The Doklam face-off was a turning point for the Indian position on the Comcasa when it realized the benefit of U.S. intelligence. It will ensure any equipment provided on an agreement will remain operational. The second assurance was on the security of data obtained from India. Comcasa provides a legal framework for the U.S. to part with sensitive communication equipment and codes to enable the transfer of real-time operational information, which will also allow India access to a big database of U.S. intelligence. It will allow India and U.S. forces to conduct joint operations with greater ease. Access to U.S. data will make qualitatively significant impact on India military planning against China. And next off is the China disadvantage. China's rise has undermined American alliances and caused territorial disputes throughout Asia. To deter further encroachment, the U.S. has strengthened its partnership with India. Arms sales are crucial to both signal and capability. The plan's reduction threatens long-term peace and stability in Asia. Cooperation between the United States and India increases. Tellus 220. Modi lavished attention on Trump. Modi sought to persuade Trump an asymmetrical partnership would be beneficial. Trump bought it. Trump authorized weapons system, which India would have struggled to procure from a U.S. administration, fearful of Pakistan or China. Trump granted India the same trade status NATO allies for high-end defense tech enjoy. Trump has been lenient when it comes to India's uncompetitive trade, enabling both countries to push ahead on strategic, especially defense cooperation, the lodestar that guides U.S.-India relations. India and the U.S. are committed to a free Indo-Pacific. This convergence enhance the partnership and set the stage for cooperation. Growing India, U.S.-India defense trade strengthened the relationship. India was once overly dependent on Russia, but began to purchase defense goods from U.S. suppliers. And India is our key ally in our fight against China, and without arms sales, India's military cannot sustain efforts to hedge against Chinese dominance. Abi Habib in 19. India's armed forces are in alarming shape. 10 days of ammunition, 68% of equipment is vintage. Troops lack equipment. Whatever the problems, the U.S. is determined to make a key ally in the coming years to hedge against China. The U.S. began prioritizing its alliance with India as its relation with Pakistan soured. However troubled its military, India holds strategic appeal by virtue of location and size. India controls important territorial waters. Beijing needs all that can help the U.S. is boxing its rival. The U.S. will need a swing state to tip the balance of power that is India. Modern armies are upgrading technical capabilities. We need to be doing the same. And absent U.S. defense, China could easily invade India. Venhataham in 17. Would India be ready if China decides to forcibly capture the region? Serious faults in maintenance of aircraft. 30% of the Akash missile systems failed. Akash failed to install. The report is a major setback for the indigenization effort. India only has enough stocks to last 10 days. Military power is stacked heavily in the favor of China. China dwarfs India in defense. And Chinese military dominance collapses the global order, destroying alliances, increasing territorial disputes, and risking a great power war. Brands and Fever in 16. Powerful China would challenge U.S. interests globally. China has not become more liberal. Disruptive behavior, expansive maritime claims, militarized disputes to undermine U.S. alliances. Challenges could be profound. Strategists confront trade-offs between engagement and China efforts to promote diplomacy. Basis of great power nuclear conflict. The specter of great power war returns. China is using forces to coerce allies, adjust boundaries, and exert pressure on neighbors. As Pentagon invests a third offset strategy to reestablish American military, the risk of a great power conflict has therefore reached a higher level than at any time. Democracy's future has become cloudier. China's been pushing back against the spread. Great power frictions thwart globalization or cause zero-sum approach. China's become a false follower. Technology is narrowing the power gap. Cut the card at gap. Next, the advantage. hold the affirmative to a high solvency threshold for solving MAD in the long term. First, Pakistan's fears of India's interest in counterforce will dissipate exactly zero if the US doesn't sell IADWS, because the incoming Russian S-400 and India's existing air defense, both using interceptors and SAM systems, already create those survivability fears in Islamabad, and when the S-400 is delivered, will amplify them regardless of IADWS. The S-400 performance envelope alone can cover aircraft, cruise missiles, and short-range ballistic missiles, and fits the range. Gun reads yellow when he sees the wrong. The capital is set to get a multi-layered defense system. Russian S-400 systems are highly automated and mobile, which will have missiles with interception ranges of 120, 200, 250, and 380 kms, followed by Barak 8 medium-range surface-to-air systems developed by Israel. Indigenous BMD comprised of advanced air defense systems, and interceptor missiles will be the outermost layer. And second, ballistic missile defense, even if enhanced, would only cover New Delhi as they concede in cross-examination. Pakistan could still strike other cities. This evidence is in May, so it assumes the affirmative. Rajagopalan 5/14. India's BMD plans provide strong evidence of retaliation-only strategy. The Indian BMD system is most likely to develop only around the NCA in New Delhi. Public accounts refer only to the defense of Delhi. India's sheer size makes it inconceivable that any BMD system could protect the entire country. There are 9 Indian cities with a population of more than 5 million, another 52 with over 1 million. Pakistan could simply attack multiple numbers of densely populated cities other than New Delhi. Pakistan's short-range system could target at least 2 large and important Indian cities. They also ignore other systems Pakistan could potentially use, including Babur cruise missiles, which can target Indian urban centers around the country. No Indian BMD system can mop up the variety and numbers of delivery vehicles that Pakistan can throw India's way, even if India conducts a reasonably successful counterforce first strike, because India's BMD system will only cover Delhi. And limiting India's air defenses doesn't neutralize or mitigate Pakistan's primary fear, that India is intent on and increasingly capable of destroying a large portion of its land-based strategic missile systems. The arms race is driven primarily by these fears, not Pakistan's ability or inability to penetrate India's air defenses with F-16 and Mirages. Wanisi Laumami and Hejlan 17. For almost a decade now, India has been developing platforms and tools that extend beyond an assured retaliation posture. Warheads for increased readiness, short-range missiles, hypersonic cruise missiles, independently targetable re-entry vehicles, all useful for first strike, damage limitation, or nuclear warfighting. Israel is building up its ISR capabilities, testing an indigenous unmanned aerial vehicle launch satellite intended to augment its military's network of war-centric warfare capabilities. Pursue 2 intelligence surveillance target acquisition reconnaissance aircraft from the U.S. India's recent tech suggests that it's moving toward generating real-time targeting info. Cut the Carta info. And fourth, the limited range and capability of the Indian Air Force has essentially driven Pakistan away from aircraft as a delivery platform. India still has way fewer nukes than Pakistan, and they would never risk a first strike. Rajagopalan 5/14. Claire and Narang ignore the most important indicator of building a nuclear force capable counterforce: numerical superiority. India's force is smaller than Pakistan's. India is in no position to conduct a counterforce strike against Pakistan. Analysts assume a 2-to-1 attack plan, and India has nowhere near that level of superiority. Even this number assumes Israel will assume all these missiles against Pakistan, which will leave it without a deterrence vis-a-vis China. The obvious answer is that India is not considering an ambiguous strategy. And fifth, the strike last night by Pakistan and India proves there's no chance of escalation in the status quo. It was unexpected and a huge change. All their evidence about escalation doesn't assume a scenario of a first strike, just conventional war.